situation as a woman in leadership where you were not sure if you should say something or maybe if you should stay quiet? This video will give you some insights to reflect upon when those situations come up and when you need to speak up as a woman in leadership. Now, I know this is a challenge, a pain point that many leaders experience throughout their career. And in this video, I'm going to share with you very candidly, off the top of my head, several reasons or scenarios that may come up for you as to when you need to speak up as a leader. If you are new to me, my name is Dr. Jacinta. I am here to help you learn how to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. The next time you have a very high stakes, challenging conversation that comes up, watching this channel will help you to be more prepared to stand out from everybody else. Now, my direct target audience I provide executive coaching and consultation services to are women in leadership. However, I have many people that are outside of my target audience that are men in leadership, individuals that are not leaders just yet. And I guarantee you, regardless of where you are in your journey, you will learn something from this channel that will help you be able to go to that next level in your career, negotiate a higher salary, regardless of where you are. The skills and the strategies and the techniques I share with you are very universal and they will help you on your journey. Now, as I mentioned, there's a lot of situations that come up, and I want to know from you, what are some situations that you have experienced as a leader where you were not sure if you should speak up, or if you left a meeting thinking that I should have said something, why did I not say anything? Let's talk about it in the comment section below. Let me know. There's a lot of different scenarios as to when you need to speak up as a woman in leadership. And so I'm going to go over them. As I mentioned, there's a lot. So many that I could probably talk about this topic at least for a couple of hours, but I'm just going to give you some highlights today. If you have found yourself in a situation, and if you found yourself in any of these situations, let me know in the comments below. And I want to say hello, and welcome to those of you who have joined the live today. If you have ever found yourself in a situation as a leader where you just were not sure, should you say something or should you just wait? This is a perfect channel and perfect live for you today. Let's talk about those scenarios where you feel a bit concerned as to if you want to say something or not. I'm going to list off scenarios I've seen over the past 20 years as a C-suite executive, a director, and a manager, and all those senior leadership roles as to when you definitely want to say something. I want to say hello to Hillary Sweeter. Hello, welcome. Let me know where you all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today, and what conversations have you worried about speaking up in? Let's talk about today. We have Evan. Hello, Evan. How you doing today? Evan says, I like. Well, thank you, Evan. Hope you're doing well today. Let me know where you all are joining from in the world today. And let's talk about scenarios when you need to speak up as a leader. Now, for instance, if you found yourself in a situation where you are in a conversation that is morally and ethically, there's something wrong, you need to speak up. You need to say something in that case. Evan says, good, thank you. I'm in Acton right now. Okay, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Good to see you. Also, let's go over scenarios. You let me know what you all come up with. Put them in the comments below. What are some scenarios you think that you need to speak up as a leader? Let's talk about it. Let me know. I'm going to list a few, and I want to hear from you. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. I mentioned if it's something that's morally and ethically wrong, you know someone's doing something incorrectly or doing something wrong, you definitely need to speak up. If it's a situation where your salary is going to be impacted or something's going to happen with your business revenue or etc., you absolutely need to speak up. Evan says when someone is being bullied, absolutely, Evan, that is a time where you definitely want to speak up. Speaking of being bullied, if you have a situation where you need to advocate for your team. Maybe there's a big change happening in the organization that you are working in. Maybe it is going to have a negative impact on your team specifically, and you are the leader of that department, of that team, of that business, and you know your team is going to suffer. You need to speak up and advocate for your team. Therefore, when that time comes and things are maybe not ideal, you want to communicate with your team and let them know, I did speak up for you all. Because a lot of times, believe it or not, when there's big changes that happen in organizations and businesses and etc., you would be surprised that some of the leaders and some of the managers, they don't speak up for their teams. They just let things go and they deal with the aftermath with their teams, but they will not advocate for them. But I encourage you to advocate for your team if you know there's something that's going to happen to them that is going to hurt them. Definitely want to speak up in those situations. For those of you joining, welcome, welcome. This is a live video, and I want to know from you, what scenarios do you think that someone, a leader, a woman in leadership, or perhaps a man in leadership, should speak up in at work? We've talked about a few. We've talked about bullying. Evan mentioned that one. I mentioned about salary. If there's something that is impacting your salary, you absolutely need to speak up. If you need to speak up for your team, you need to speak up for them. Let's go through a few more scenarios and let me know what scenarios you all came up with that you think are scenarios when someone really needs to speak up. Another scenario you may want to consider is that if you are new to a role. So for instance, if you happen to be, let's say, a woman in leadership, and you have either been promoted or you have been hired for a higher level role, maybe you are in a more visible role, you need to speak up. And there's sometimes when you start new jobs where you do have to be mindful of the dynamics. If you are being promoted, sometimes you may already know your teams and have a sense of how they communicate, but you may be in a different role where you are seeing a different side of how they typically communicate. Now, if you happen to be in a situation where you are new to a job or you just started your position, there's always a point in time where you have to observe. You do need to observe so you can get a sense of the room. Now, for those of you who are new to me, this is what I focus on this channel, is those very advanced communication skills and strategies to help you communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. And one of those strategies I share with you is reading the room. Reading the room will be very, very important to you if you are just starting a new role. But even if you are brand new in your role and you're not quite sure what to say, what expectations do you want to make, how do you want to outline a conversation, and etc., or have a discussion about a specific topic, remember, they hired you for a reason. They promoted you for a reason. Therefore, your expertise is valued. Do not be afraid to say something when you have just started a new job. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with this. I know some women struggle with this depending on the role that they're in. And I know it can be challenging because you're just not quite sure as to what you want to say, how you want to say it, and when you want to say it. But that's okay. If you are new to a role, make sure you speak up because they need to know your expertise. When you're starting a new position, there has to be this balance between you listening, you observing, but you still have to present yourself as the authority, if that makes sense. So definitely keep that in mind. You absolutely need to speak up when you're in a new role. Do not be the person that is timid that says, oh, I don't know if I want to say anything or not. Make sure you say something. Okay, let's see what's going on in the chat. Akitsia, hello friend, good to see you. Akitsia says the king of Greece has entered the live knowledge and beauty. Well, thank you, Akitsia. Good to see you, friend. And Akitsia says, beauty with no limits, thank you. How are you? What's the topic? Akitsia, good to see you. I am doing fantastically well, friend. And today we're talking about when you should speak up as a leader. We've talked about a couple scenarios that come up that you need to speak up. Thank you for the heart emojis. We've talked about, Evan mentioned, if you are bullied, you need to speak up as a leader. I have mentioned a few, and I'll go over them really quickly, Akesia, because I know you come to the live, and I don't want you to miss out on anything. I mentioned if there's a conversation that is ethically wrong, you know something's wrong, you need to speak up. If it's something that's impacting your salary, you need to speak up. If it is a situation where you need to advocate for your team because there's a big change happening, you definitely need to speak up. So we're just going through the list. I want to know from you, from those of you watching live, what are some scenarios where you feel like you need to speak up as a woman in leadership or perhaps as a man in leadership? What are those scenarios specifically that come up? Let's talk about them. Let's talk about them as a group, because one of the issues I see a lot of people struggle with when they're thinking about trying to become better at those very high stakes, high pressure conversations is that they just don't know when to say something. They don't know when to say something. They just sit kind of quietly. But I want you all to be empowered, and I genuinely believe that we have an absolutely amazing audience of leaders here on this channel, and we can come up with as many scenarios as possible. So when someone watches this live video and says, you know what, I need to speak up, I don't know if I should say something, should I not say something? I want them to feel empowered to say, you know what, I remember on the live, they said that this is a scenario when you want to speak up. So this is just really free conversation today, friends. I want to get as many scenarios as possible. And if you're watching live, put your scenarios in the comments below so we can talk about them. Okay, I have Almagear Enterprise. Hello, welcome back, friend. Almagear says, hi, remember me. Yes, I do. Welcome back. Good to see you. Akesia says, in case of intruding vision. Yes, Akesia, that's a good one. That's a very good scenario where you will want to speak up. If there's something going on and you see the vision is not the way that it's supposed to be, you definitely want to speak up. Almagear says, I have 8 experience account and finance in my country. How to get jobs in other countries. Well, let's talk about that briefly, and then we're going to go back into scenarios. So Almagear, with you having, and thank you for the heart emojis, with you having experience in account and finance in your country and you're trying to work in other countries, one of the things, and we've talked about this before on the channel, you have to look and see what type of skills do you have that are universal. So if you're looking for opportunities in different countries, I would start looking at job descriptions for some of those jobs and roles specifically to see exactly what they're looking for as it relates to accounting, as it relates to finance specifically. What are some of the characteristics that they need? There is probably something that you are doing right now, even if you are in a different organization, a different country, that is probably applicable to other country. Why? Because finance and accounting, those are your very, I would say, fixed industries. You deal with numbers. You deal with finite information. It's a little bit different. So for instance, I'm a dentist. If I want to go practice dentistry in Greece, for example, because Akesia is from Greece, there's a whole entire different process in terms of how do you become licensed to be a doctor in Greece? How can I practice dentistry in Greece? It's not just like I just pick up my bag and I fly to Greece and I go practice dentistry. No, it doesn't work like that. Neither does it work that way in the United States. So it's a bit more of a process to do that. But Almagear, in your case, because it's finance and it's money and it's numbers, I feel like you have a good opportunity to find something in another country because it's so finite. Does that make sense? I would definitely take a look at some of the opportunities that are out there in different jobs or different countries and look at the job descriptions and see what are some of those skills that you already have that you can put together. Okay, Akesia says Greece plus United States united. Exactly, Akesia. We're all people at the end of the day. We're just all trying to live and we all need to work together. All right, so let's come up with some more scenarios for the audience, shall we? Okay, I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. If you have found yourself in a situation where, let's say there's a project that you are leading specifically with your organization, and you are the very forefront, thank you for the heart emojis, you're at the very forefront of the actual project, then you need to speak up. You want to speak up because all eyes are essentially going to be on you in that situation. And you have to speak up in those cases. You don't want to be the person that's timid, that's shy, that says, oh, I don't know if I want to say anything or not. there are certain times when you need to speak up, because if you do not, the situation will happen when you go to the meeting, people are talking around you and saying their points and etc. And then you leave the meeting and you say to yourself, I knew I should have said something. Why didn't I say anything? I don't want you to live a life of regret. That's the reason why on my channel, I talk about when you're going into meetings, come up with at least 1 to 2 talking points that are very, very important to you or to your teams or to your projects or to your business or to your constituents. There has to be at least a couple talking points that are really important that you plan in advance. When you go to those meetings, you're ready to go. Okay, so let's see. Alamgir, I'm sorry. Alamgir, I think I'm saying it correctly. Alamgir, I'm going to say that. Says, I want to leave my country. Here is so much corruption. Well, Alamgir, let me tell you something, friend. There's corruption everywhere. Everywhere there's corruption, unfortunately. I don't know which country you're from. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I'm going to be honest with you. There's corruption everywhere. I know you want to leave your country, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't want you to think that there's not corruption in other places, because there is, unfortunately. All right, let's talk about some more scenarios. For those of you joining, welcome. We are trying to come up with a long list of situations where you need to speak up as a leader. Whether you are a woman in leadership or a man in leadership, you need to speak up. Now, if you happen to be a woman in leadership and you are trying to navigate some of the challenges that we sometimes experience as women in these leadership roles, then contact me for an executive strategy session at exciteexcellence.org, and I will help you come up with a really solid plan to help you with that. All right, Alamgir says, India, I said last live. Yes. So understand for sure. There's a lot of corruption anywhere, but what specific country are you targeting right now, Alamgir? Let me know in the comments below. And let me know what other situations you think that somebody should speak up in. Okay, Alamgir says, here democracy is destroyed day by politics. Alamgir, I'm gonna tell you, I'm in the United States, and I swear that happens here too. I'm being candid with you all. We have a lot of issues here. Okay, we have Isaf Duma Samora. I hope, friend, I said your name correctly. Welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Let me know where you all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today. Okay, now, what other scenarios do you think that if you were in this scenario that you would say, I need to speak up? Let's talk about it. Okay, Akitia says, in case of behavior or technical problems, 1, how to balance initiative and following protocols, and 2, technical problems, introducing a better projects as current is no viable anymore. So, okay, I understand what you're saying. So basically, you're at a place where these are situations where you might want to definitely speak up. And if there's something that's wrong and it's not working out, Akesia, that's a really, really good one, friend. I'm going to give you a high five on that, because if there is no viable option and things are not working out, you need to speak up. You definitely need to speak up. Akesia says democracy is Greece. All right, fantastic. Alamgir says, I need a job in the Gulf or UK or US, but I don't know how to use my skill. So I would take a look, see if you can look up some job descriptions in the Gulf or in the UK, in the US. I would really start there. I would start there, because at least that tells you exactly what you need to do specifically in this particular scenario to find those positions. Now, I will say that there was a troll on here that was trying to say something offensive. The last time I had someone do that, they tried to come back on the live. If you see that, just let me know, and I'll do what I can to delete them. They were saying something very offensive to me and my ethnicity, but I could care less about dealing with clowns and trolls. Now, what are some other scenarios that you can think of where you would want to speak up? Akesia came up with a couple. Something's not viable. There's some technical problems. You need to say something. If you're the lead of a project, you need to speak up. If you know that you have the ability to change the direction of a project Even though you may not be the project lead, you need to speak up. Because sometimes what happens with leaders specifically, you may find yourself in a situation where you're talking, you're having a conversation, and the whole team is on the wrong path. We're supposed to be going over to the rainbow, and they're trying to go down to the hurricane. You're just saying, no, 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 this isn't right. This isn't right. We need to go in the right direction. That's the time when you need to speak up. Sometimes it may come across as maybe not being popular just because the group of people you're talking to are trying to go toward the hurricane. You're trying to steer them to the rainbow. But in those situations where you know the decisions that are made are going to be catastrophic, you need to speak up. Now, a lot of it comes down to the way you say it and how you say it and when you say it. I talked a lot about that on my videos, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, you absolutely should do so because we talk about this quite a bit. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. Alamgir says, I only know accounting and finance. Ma'am, can you help me to find out? Well, I will say, because as I mentioned earlier, accounting and finance are finite industries in terms of the data you deal with. You're dealing with numbers. I really would try to look at some job descriptions in the United States for those roles. That's where I would start. United States, you mentioned United States, UK, and in the Gulf. Try to look for some job descriptions because that's really the only way you're going to be able to start making those transitions. Now, my question to you from an executive coaching standpoint would be, what are some of the concerns you have about applying for these roles? Because if you can look at job descriptions, there has to be that next step. So it's not a matter of just, if you're serious about trying to relocate from where you are, there comes a point in time where you have to make that decision in terms of, okay, I am doing this. This is going to happen. So look at some of those job opportunities and those job descriptions, and then start looking to see what companies are hiring. I would do it in that order, and I've helped a lot of my clients be able to fine-tune what they wanted to do in terms of their careers or transition careers. And that is, in my humble opinion, the best way for you to start. You have to see what's out there. What are people looking for? And then reflect back on your finance and accounting skills and say, I have this, I do not have this, I need to work on that. And then start getting yourself together so that when those jobs are available or you're ready to apply for them, then you can apply for those positions. Now, in terms of specifically for me, because accounting and finance is not specifically in my realm of what I focus in on, I'm not able to provide specific insight there. I know a bit about finance and accounting just because I worked as a C-suite and I dealt with numbers, I dealt with budgets, I generated millions of dollars and did all those things. So let me know what else you want to talk about specifically. And then for those of you joining, let's talk about specifically what are some other conversations where you feel like a leader needs to speak up. Let's talk about it. Because remember, a lot of people watch the live videos on the replay, and they're going to learn different aspects or scenarios where they feel like they need to speak up that they may not have thought about before. Okay, so Aketia says, technical case, need for expansion, what strategy, joint ventures, buying a company. Yes, so those are really good scenarios when you need to speak up too, because if you are trying to plan for an expansion, you have to speak up. You know, a lot of times at Kesia, people wait till the last minute before they need an expansion. They don't have the foresight or the ability to think ahead in terms of what is going to happen in the next couple of years. This happens every single day. People start ventures or start companies, etc., and there's no plan, there's no strategy in place in terms of exactly what are we doing here. So this is something that comes up quite a bit, and you mentioned some good cases. So expansion, what's your strategy, your joint venture, you're buying a company, you need to speak up specifically, and I believe that's what you're talking about. Okay, so we have Alamgir says, here is so much agent, okay, but I need direct and company, not by agent charging so much charges. I believe when you say agent, and I'm going to you let me know if I have this correct or not. I believe you're probably talking about recruiters. It almost sounds like you're talking about recruiters. Let me know if I'm incorrect, because we have recruiters here in the U.S. where people are looking for opportunities and jobs, and they are having to go through a recruiter, and sometimes there's fees associated with that. I believe that's what you're talking about. Let me know. Let me know in the comments below if that's what it is. We have Olafax. Hope you're doing well today. Appreciate your compliment. Akesia says, what is more safe and low risk regarding the above strategies? Oh, you're asking a question. Okay, I'm sorry, Akesia. Let me go back. Alrighty, so let's say when it comes to expansion, so what Akesia is asking for everybody that's watching the replay, when it comes, what's the more safe and low risk regarding the above strategies? So let's talk about it. So if you're trying to plan for an expansion, the safest way to do an expansion is really to think ahead. Think ahead to what's the big vision of your company, of your organization, or etc. What are they trying to do specifically? And if you take some time to think about the future, it helps you to start developing that strategy. A low risk way to do that is just to sit and have quiet time and think about your role. Think about your role in your department, your organization, your business, or etc. And think to yourself, well, where do I want to be at in the next 2-3 years? Or where does the company want to be at in the next 2 or 3 years, or whatever the case may be that you want to use? That's a really safe and low risk way to start developing a strategy, specifically as it relates to expansion. And to take it a next step further, what do you need to make this vision you have a reality? For example, if you're trying to expand a business and you know you want to go, maybe you are a home-based business and you want to expand yourself to having a storefront or an office space or whatever you want to do, then you have to think, well, what do I need to have a storefront and an office space? Well, you're going to need revenue. You're going to need some team members possibly, maybe not. What do you need? If you're expanding a organization, maybe, thank you for the heart emojis, maybe you need to secure another building. Well, what kind of buildings are you looking for? Is there opportunities for you to buy land and buy the building? Are there any buildings for sale? Are there any buildings in foreclosure? So these are low risk ways for you to start planning ahead, I would say, Akesia, when it comes to developing a strategy. Now, as it relates to venture and buying a company, it's somewhat similar. The low risk way really is to just spend some quiet time and think about it and do research. I, of course, as an executive coach, would tell you to work with an executive coach or work with a business coach specifically, because a lot of times when you are in a coaching session or in a coaching situation, we are trained. If you're working with a certified coach that actually has been through a coaching program, not because they're just telling you what to do, that's a consultant, it's totally different. But we are trained to ask you certain type of questions to make you think and to make you really start to dive deep and understand, what are these challenges I'm facing right now? How can I really move forward? What obstacles could I potentially encounter that may prevent me from going into that business, that may prevent me from going into that venture, etc. Those are some really low risk ways to help you, because the time and the money you spend in investing in a coach to work with you will be one of the highest ROIs, return on investment, that you will have, because it will save you a lot of time and a lot of money and help you move forward a lot faster. Okay, so let's see. Akesia says behavioral case, changing the whole business culture. And I believe you're probably asking that. Now, for the whole business culture, if you're trying to change something like that, that's a situation where you definitely need to speak up, because you know there's something going on with the culture. But in terms of how do you do this, that takes time. You have to find out who are the influencers in a organization or business. Now, every organization, whether you work for somebody or you have your own or you're with a group of people, there are always people that are the influencers. These are the individuals that other people go to if they have a problem or they have a question. And if you're trying to change the culture of your organization or your business, etc., you have to identify those people. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, I'm the boss, I'm the manager, I'm the CEO, etc. I'm the culture. And that very well may be true. But if you have grown and you have a very large organization, there are micro influencers that are within your organization that will help you to be able to change that business culture. You just have to know who those people are and make sure that they understand your vision, what you're trying to do, so that they can be the ones that share that message and that culture with everybody else. All right. Alam Gear says, yes, I need genuine people who help me to find out how to make it in your career. I believe that's what you're saying. Absolutely. And that is definitely why I'm here to support you as much as I can and give you any insights. I do believe, Alam Gear, if you can spend some time doing what we talked about in terms of looking at some just job descriptions. Look at some job descriptions in the Gulf, the UK, and the US for accounting and finance. Start there, friend. That'll give you at least information. When it comes to making a big decision, and this is for everybody on the live or watching the replay, you have to have data. Many times people become just very overwhelmed. And I want to know from you, have you ever had a big decision and you just feel like, oh, it's just too much. It's too much for me. Have you had that? I have many, many times in my life. And I will say that a lot of times, if you just take a few moments just to calm down and just think, what do I know? Try to collect as much data as you can. And data doesn't necessarily always mean numbers. It means information. Learn as much as you can, research as much as you can, become educated, become informed, ask people that may have some insight on it to make your decisions. Akesia says, amazing speaker, flexible to the bone. Well, thank you, Akesia. I appreciate that. Aprecia says, haha, love you. Thank you, Akesia. I appreciate that. And Alam Gear says, what kind of business are growing there? I would say in the US, there's a lot of different businesses that are growing here. Of course, technology is a big business. I was just listening to a billionaire yesterday. His name is David Stout on the School of Mentors that I'm a part of. And they had Billionaire Day. So they had 3 billionaires talk to us and answer our questions so that we could understand some of the challenges that they have faced, how they became very, very successful financially, etc. But one of the billionaires, he founded a web AI organization, and he mentioned that most of the people on the world today are not using AI. Now, I know many of us may say, well, how is that even possible? But I'm going to trust him that he probably knows what he's talking about because he founded an AI company by himself. And if that is something that is a field that people are not in right now and it's really in its infancy, then it may be something to think about. But there's just a lot. I mean, there's a lot of different types of organizations and businesses growing here. Tech is always a big one. Oil and gas. I mean, there's just so many. There's so many organizations and businesses that grow here, and you can kind of make whatever it is you want to make out of it. Joshua Thomas, hello. How you doing today? Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Akesia says, Joshua Thomas, welcome. And the baby you mentioned here is Dr. Bear in mind, welcome anyways. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Akesia. We have Stanford Tefuma. Hello, welcome, welcome. Says, hi, hey, I'm Stan from Jamaica. Well, hello from Jamaica, friend. Glad to see you here. So we're talking about what situations, what scenarios do you think you need to speak up as a woman in leadership? You need to speak up as a man in leadership. We've talked about a lot of scenarios so far, so let's keep it going for our live audience and also for the replay audience, because we all get in those situations where we are in a meeting, we say, oh, I should have said something. Why didn't I say something? Let's come up with a comprehensive list today. Akesia has given us several things to think about. I've shared a few, so I want to hear from you too. All right, we have Robert. Hello, Robert. Welcome, friend. Good to see you. How are you? Robert says, I have one question. Of course, Robert. What question do you have? While I'm waiting for Robert's question, let's go over some more scenarios when you need to speak up. We've talked about quite a bit so far. Akesia has brought up some really great examples. A couple other scenarios when you want to speak up is when you are being challenged. Now, if someone is giving you a hard time, or they're trying to challenge something you said, or they disagree with you, that's okay to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody can have their own opinion. But this is when you need to speak up. You have to speak up in these situations. If someone challenges you and you stay quiet and say nothing, that is a fantastic opportunity for you to lose your executive presence and your credibility and authority as a leader. You do not want to do that, especially when you are in front of a group of people. You have to respond if you're being challenged. So if you're being challenged, you need to speak up. If you are negotiating your salary, we touched on this earlier. I mentioned that if something is impacting your finances and your income, you definitely need to speak up. But if you are in a salary negotiation, you have to advocate for yourself and you need to speak up. You have to speak up in these scenarios specifically because if you do not advocate for yourself, someone else will advocate for you, and most of the time, they will not advocate for you the way that you would for yourself. So definitely speak up. Okay, Akesia says, question. In business with having structured teams, sometimes employees create teams within formal teams, which sometimes do follow the direction of the formal team. How do you deal with it? How do you speak up? Okay, let me make sure I understand. Okay, let me read your question one more time. Business have structured teams. Sometimes employees create teams within their formal teams, which sometimes do follow direction of the formal team. So you're talking about, and make sure I'm clear, Akesia. So I'm almost getting it where you have your, let's say you have team A, but you have a subset of team A. So you have your formal team as your big team, but then you have a subset team within that. Is that what you're referring to? I believe that's what you're saying. I think so. If that's the case, and clarify me if I have that incorrectly, then I'll talk about it. But how do you speak up in those situations? Well, find out who are the leaders. Who are the real leaders of the teams? Okay, so Akesia says, do not follow. Oh, when they do not follow the formal team. Oh, okay. Okay, great. When those situations come up, Akesia, and you have your formal team and you have your sub team that come in and they're not following, then you have to speak up, but speak up with data. Everybody listens to data. If you can come statistically or with some facts that say specifically, I've noticed that this is happening. The formal team does it this way for this reason because they've been very successful. We want to make sure that the entire team is successful, and we appreciate everything everyone's been doing, but let's make sure we're following the formal way so that we can all be very, very successful. Whatever you want to say, Akesia, but I would go based off of data and success. So if your formal team has been doing very well on a specific project because they are following the protocol or the formal way, then make sure you highlight that and show their successes. And maybe you can talk about, we want to make sure everyone is being just as successful. So I would focus on data and I would focus on numbers. That's how I would speak up in those situations to try to get everyone back on the same page. Because this happens, especially when you're in larger organizations. You're going to have people that find their own way and do their own way. And there's nothing wrong with that way specifically, but you still want to try to get everyone in alignment so that we're all doing the same type of protocol, process, workflow, or etc. So it's very, very successful. So that's what I would do. I would speak up, but I would speak up from a place of, celebrating them. I'm sure they've done some amazing things, but then just bringing them back to say, this is the way we need to do things. As a leader at Akesia, this is something that you have to do often, is just course correct your team. Okay, Robert says, I have been handling a team on the night shift for many months, and there is an opening that comes in the regular shift. I have thought of moving Kevin to the day shift. Oh, okay. And since he has been asking for many days, he wants to move the day shift for routine life. Okay. And Robert says, suddenly Matthew came and asked me to move him to day shift since he is facing some health issues in night shift. And he came up with a doctor's prescription showing he is facing some health issues. Interesting. Now, my question is whom I have to move, Kevin or Matthew? Kevin is asking for many days, even many months, or Matthew, who came up with a doctor prescription suddenly. Robert, you have always the best scenarios. I enjoy reading those because they're very complex. And I guess because I don't like complex things, but I'm just so used to dealing with complex situations as a C-suite. This is an interesting one. So this is what and I'm going to say this, but this is really what I would do in this situation. This is a HR. This is definitely a HR. Why is this a HR? Because they need to know about this doctor's prescription, that this employee has some limitations suddenly in terms of what they have to do. Now, I will say that if you have only really the one role, then you have just one position. But this is where you want to have HR as an ally, because you can have that conversation with HR, Robert. And I would say literally this: Kevin is someone that I've already spoken. We've already had some dialogue. He is interested in moving to the day shift for various reasons. Thank you for the heart emojis, friends. However, I just received this notification from Matthew, from his physician, that says he needs to work during the day. What is the best way we can handle this? I would, because it sounds like you're leaning more towards Kevin, I would prefer to have Kevin in the day shift. Is there another department that could potentially accommodate Matthew? That's how I would do it. So I phrase it this way for this reason. One, you have to know when the situation is going a little bit above your head. And I'm not saying that this is completely above your head, but meaning specifically above your scope of what you need to do. If it's something with employees, limitations on what they're doing, you typically want to talk to HR about that. If you have a conversation with HR about it, I would tell them the facts, explain to them exactly what's going on, but state your preference, Robert. If your preference is to have Kevin move to the day shift, then you have to make that known. And this is actually a scenario, Robert, where you would want to speak up, like we're talking about in the live today. You have to speak up and advocate for your team. We talked about that earlier before you joined. But I would mention your preference. I would prefer to have Kevin go to the day shift. If you feel like you need to say because, then you can explain. If you don't feel like you have to explain, then don't explain it. Just say Kevin needs to go to the day shift. I would prefer to have Kevin go to the day shift because he's going to do a better job, or he has been requesting this for an extended amount of time. He's been an amazing worker, etc. That's how I would phrase it. So talk to HR. Tell him what's going on. Give him the objective. Kevin wants to go to day shift. So does Matthew, that he suddenly has a prescription that he has to deal with. And you prefer Kevin, and you may want to share why. So you want to, if you really want to advocate for Kevin, and I'm just assuming you're advocating for Kevin. If I'm incorrect, then just turn it to the other, just reverse it, I would say. But if Kevin is who you really want to go to that position, and thank you for the heart emojis, then come up with at least one or two or even three reasons why Kevin is doing a great job and why he needs to go to the day shift. Typically, and this is a secret I do specifically, when I'm in those conversations, thank you for the heart emojis, with my HR team, and this is just, these are secrets I'm sharing with you, okay? You all are my friends. I'm sharing you secrets. When I have those dialogues with HR, I'm going in to win, and I'm going in to have a conversation, and I want to get what I want to have accomplished. If not, let's negotiate. Let's come up with a compromise that will benefit both of us. If I'm trying to advocate for an employee, I will just list off. Did I say list off and list off again and again? All the wonderful things they've been doing. I pretty much am going to overwhelm HR and say this person is doing an amazing job. They're doing great. They're going to fit so well. They've been doing X amount on their productivity. If you have that, Robert. Now, if you don't have that about Kevin, and maybe you are not going either way, then just say you prefer Kevin, or however you want to do it. But if it's somebody you really do care about and you genuinely want to support, then I would just pretty much overwhelm HR with how amazing they are. So they say, oh, wow, Kevin's doing a really great job. Well, Robert, let's see what we can do about trying to get Kevin into the day shift, and we'll figure out what to do with Matthew. That's what I do, personally. Alam Gear says, have you ever been to India? No, I have not been to India, but I would like to travel there one day. Akesia says, yes, agree, data and evidence to prepare them for landing. Yes, exactly, Akesia. If the subgroups negatively impact the formal team, credits, doctor. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, and you have to just come with data. Sometimes as leaders, as you know, Akeisha, because I can tell you're a leader, we have situations that come up where we're just dealing with fires all the time, and we don't have time to really process the information and respond in those very high stakes type of conversations in a way that reflects us being leaders. Sometimes we're just thinking to yourself, well, you just stop acting like that. You just want to say, well, you stop doing that. Please stop doing that. But you don't want to do that. You may be thinking that, but you don't want to say that. You want to come with data, and it presents you when you're talking to your team as that person that is very organized, that's very calm under pressure, that is stating the fact that this is negatively impacting the team. This is the reason why we need to have everybody go back to this way. A lot of times, Akeisha, your team, they will not know that data, some of the back end data that you potentially deal with, and you see where these challenges come up specifically. And if they don't know it, then how do they know that they're doing something incorrectly, or that their subset way of doing things is impacting the whole team as a whole? That's why data, and give them some congratulations so they don't feel like you're just, shining the light on them and just telling them, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. You just want to make it like a conversation. That's the biggest thing with those difficult discussions, is definitely a conversation. So maybe try it that way, and I hope that helps. Let me know how that goes, Akeisha. Robert says, if I move Kevin to the day shift, then Matthew will ask, how can you move Kevin even though I'm facing hard times and health issues in the night shift? He may get angry and leave work suddenly with ego. Okay, so do you have a relationship with your human resources department, Robert? That's something to keep in mind, because situations like that, that's what you need human resources for, so that you all can talk about it. Because there may be something that they know about in terms of potential openings somewhere else or in a different capacity that you may not know about just yet. And that's the reason why you want to have a conversation with him if you have a relationship with human resources and you have a good department there. Now, let's go to the contrary. Let's say Robert does not have a good relationship with human resources, or maybe there's just not a human resources department that's functioning the way they should be. How do you manage the situation? I would try to look to see, how can I make this work? Is there anybody that's on the day shift that is thinking about going to the night shift? I would just start asking questions and having conversations with your team to get a feel for everybody. Now, I'm assuming most of the people on the day shift, they probably want to stay on the day shift, more than likely. They probably don't want to move to night shift. And if that's the case, then you have to move. You have to do what you feel like is best for you. Now, I don't want to give medical advice, but it just depends on what kind of health issues are they having to where they have to work in the day. I'm thinking as a doctor off the top of my head, and I am not sure what that would be, but I'm not his physician, obviously. But I'm just wondering, like, what is it? What do they have going on? So, but nonetheless, I would say if you don't have a good relationship with HR, if you don't have an HR, then you have to do what you think is best. And most of the time, if you're worried about someone leaving a role because of ego, do you need that person there? You have to think about it. You have to think about that. So let me know what you end up finding out. I would still say HR is the first place I personally would go, because that's a collaborative discussion, but you can make your preferences known and let them figure it out, what they want to do with Robert, because that really is where it needs to go first, honestly, is HR. Stranger Man says, hello, welcome. Let me know what part of Big Beautiful World you all are joining from today. Robert says, thank you for the explanation. Absolutely, Robert. I'm here for you, friend. We have Dark Sun Aditya Tripathi. I believe I said that correctly. What do you think is most important thing in group discussion? How can I get selected in it? You seem to be articulate and well-spoken. Absolutely. Well, Dark Sun, guess what? You are on the best channel on YouTube to learn about this. Let me see what's going on. Okay, and I'm going to answer your question, Dark Sun, in just a second. And Robert says, I'm going to go into snacks. Yes, Robert, I know about this time there's the snacks for you in where you live. See you, ma'am. Thank you. Bye for now. Bye, Robert. Good to see you. Okay, Darkson, let's talk about that. Andy Kane, hello. How you doing today? Hey, from Ireland, honey. Well, hello, friend, and happy St. Patrick's Day yesterday. Happy belated St. Patrick's Day. Okay, so Darkson, so your question is about what do you think is the most, and I'm going to repeat it for the audience, what do you think is the most important thing in group discussion? How can I get selected in it? You seem to be articulate. Okay, so let's talk about it. If you're in a group discussion, and thank you for the heart emojis, Darkson, there's a lot of things you need to do. Subscribe to the channel for sure. I mean, I'm here to really help you communicate at a higher level than your peers and be chosen and be selected. But I'm just going to give you just overall overview of some things you can do. Keep in mind, there's a lot that goes into it, but this is just something to get you started. If you're in a group discussion, before you go into your group discussion, come up with a couple things that you think are very relevant that you want to talk about with the group that will change the group's conversation, that will change the project you're working on, or whatever it is. Have at least one talking point. I would say if you're just starting out, just have one talking point. If you feel like you could probably squeeze in two, then squeeze in two, but I would really just focus on one based on your question. So I'd have my one topic that I want to talk to the group about. And how can you be selected, or what's the most important thing in a group discussion? Group discussions are important by asking questions and engaging with the audience. Now, a couple things that I do with the audience when you're talking in a group discussion is first, you want to prepare in advance. We talked about that, coming up with a talking point. Second is when you are speaking, make sure that you're sounding very affirmative, not like you're asking a question. For example, if you're saying, I wasn't sure, I don't know, what should we do? If you're asking questions like that, it doesn't project you as a leader. It projects you as someone that might not know what they're talking about. And if you're in a group setting, you want to be recognized as someone that's a leader. Another thing you can do is make sure you're maintaining eye contact with the individuals you're talking to. And this is something that we speak about on my channel. If you take some time to look at my live tabs, any of my videos that talk about eye contact, just listen out for the cowboy analogy. That is my analogy to eye contact. It will help you in that situation. But making sure you're making eye contact with everybody in the group is important. I'll tell you this specifically, Darkson, that majority of the people in the world, regardless of where they are, there's many aspects of communication people struggle with, but I've narrowed it down to the top 3 issues that they come up. People struggle with eye contact, people struggle with silence in a conversation, and people also struggle with their facial expressions. If you can start learning how to become better at those or master those by watching this channel, then you will be at a place where you stand out from everybody else in a group discussion because they probably are struggling with that. So if you can make eye contact with everybody, that will be helpful. And then if you want to be selected, make sure you're bringing some value. Come to the meeting with some numbers, some statistics, whatever it is that you're talking about, have something that sets you apart from everybody else. Most people are not coming to meetings, depending on the topic you're talking about, to say, oh, I know that, for instance, here in the United States. So I know that in January, there was 180,000 jobs that were lost due to layoffs and etc. Why do I know that? Because I pay attention to the news, I pay attention to what's going on, but I'm able to articulate those statistics specifically, which automatically will boost my credibility with other people because it appears as if I know what I'm talking about. And I do, because I looked that number up. So when you have those group discussions, you can just say, I have something to add, and add value. Whatever it is, Darkson, that you want to try to do, say, I have something to add that may benefit this conversation. Say what you need to say, and then people say, oh, Darkson, thank you for mentioning that. Then you start being selected into the group, if that makes sense. Let me know what other questions you have, but Darkson, you absolutely want to subscribe to this channel, friend, because I will help you with that. Akesia says, question, how you speak up if your manager accidentally downgrades you instead of upgrades you. Okay, let's talk about that. We have Mudasir Mahid. Hello, welcome. Okay, Akesia. So question, you're saying, how do you speak up if your manager accidentally downgrades you instead of upgrades you? There's a lot that goes with that. And let me say, we have to determine, is this intentional or is this unintentional? That's really where I would start with something like that. If you say your manager accidentally downgraded you, how does your manager do that? I think that's the first question that I have. How does your manager accidentally downgrade you? Your manager should know, they should know what they're doing. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. They should know what they're doing. If they accidentally downgrade you specifically, maybe they don't realize it. I'm going to give your manager a benefit of a doubt. Your manager did not know he was downgrading you specifically. If he's downgrading you, then what I would do is have a conversation with your manager, and I would talk to them and specifically mention about, these are the roles or responsibilities that I was doing beforehand when I had Title A. And now my responsibilities are in Title B, but they're a little bit less than Title A. I am very proficient in the responsibilities I was doing in Title A. I wanted to get some insight from you in terms of what was the plan for me going to Title B. Title B being the downgraded title is what I would say. So I would have that conversation, but come prepared with some data like we talked about. I did very well with this particular title. I just wanted to get some insight in terms of why things were transitioned to where I've been placed in this title. You don't necessarily want to say, I was upgraded already and you downgraded me. Why did you do that? I don't understand. You don't want to come across it that way, because there is some rationale in your manager's mind as to why they did that. Now, is it the right rationale? I can't give you the answer to that because I'm not your manager. But your managers, typically, they know what they're doing, unless they just don't. And if your manager downgraded you and you don't know why, or your manager doesn't know why, then that's probably something you really have to think about. That's why I would start with that, Akesia specifically. Okay, Akesia says, my answer is evidence and data that you are worth more rather than downgrade. Yes, absolutely, Akesia. You definitely want to do something like that, because if you're downgraded, well, first, Akesia, I got to ask you a question. Did they downgrade your pay, or is it just a downgrade of a title? Now, if it's pay, I'm going to respond a little bit differently. But if it's your title, then let's maybe talk about those data, how you were doing very well with this title, and just asking for I would ask more so for clarification, so that you know you enjoy where you're at, you enjoy what you do, you just want to get clarification. I would ask that specifically because in those type of situations, you want to know what's in your manager's mind. Like, what are they thinking? And this is where I talk about it a lot on my channel, where you have to read people, Akesia. Because when you have that conversation and you're asking them, I was at this title and now I'm at this title, and I was doing very well in this role. I was able to handle the responsibilities. I was able to accomplish X amount percentage in productivity, or whatever you want to say, Akesia. But now I'm doing this. I just wanted to get a clarification of why there has been a decrease in my responsibilities. And I would ask that and let them talk. Key, Akesia, is you have to look at them and observe what they say and what their body language is saying that they may not be willing to say. If you catch your manager off guard with this, or you have that conversation, they will show you their true reaction. And as I mentioned, your managers typically know what they're doing. There's a reason why there's some type of change happening, but if you ask for clarification, it at least gives you some insight to know what's going on. Now, if you find out that this is, then maybe they didn't realize they were doing a downgrade, then you know that, okay, it's a mistake, they're going to make a change. However, if this was an intentional position downgrade, as you mentioned, then you know in the back of your mind, okay, they downgraded my position. There's not really a clear reason why. What do I need to prepare for? And so it's something that you want to keep in mind. But I would ask just for clarification. I wouldn't go in, saying, you downgraded my position. Why did you do that? I would just ask for clarification and let them talk and just observe, Akesia. Just observe what they say and say, okay, I understand. Or can we make that change? Just depends on what the conversation, how it goes, but you let me know. I'm curious to know about that. Akesia says, evidence and data always. Absolutely. That is true. All right, Darkson says, topics are given during discussion. We don't know it beforehand. How do we think so quickly? Oh, Darkson, you need to subscribe to the channel, friend. Okay, now let's talk about, I see you said something else. Let me see. Before I answer your question, you are a very strong woman mentally. How do you build this personality? Was it an outcome of some tragedy or family upbringing? Okay, so we have a couple things to talk about. So let's, Darkson, let's talk about the first one first, the first question first. So you had mentioned about topics are given during the discussion. We don't know it beforehand. How do we think so quickly? Okay, I have several videos on my live channel that talk about, live channel that talk about think on your feet. So this is going to be a good video for you to watch. Definitely, Darkson, spend some time on my channel. Sometimes on the lives, we go into different conversations or topics. So just look for the lives that might be a little bit shorter on the topic of thinking on your feet. And then if you need to fast forward a little bit, that's fine. But in terms of that, okay, Darkson, more than likely, if you're in a group discussion, you don't know the topic, but it's probably centered around something. So if they're talking to you, you don't necessarily have to know everything, Darkson, but you do have to be able to frame your discussion or your argument. So if you are in a specific, if you give me some more context, that'll be helpful. If you are in a specific group, maybe you're in an academic setting, maybe you're in college, I'm just assuming, but you let me know what your situation is. If you are in a setting and you know, let's say your topic or your class or your discussion is going to be centered around economics, let's say. It's centered around economics, and I would have a couple just talking points as it relates to the economy that's going on in the country that you live in. If it's something about history, maybe there's something historical that's happened, then maybe come up with a couple talking points about history. I would have just some information in my mind. This is one of the reasons why you want to learn as much as you can, read as much as you can about what's going on in the world today, because Darkson, you can bring some of that data in to that conversation to make everybody say, wow, Darkson really knows what Darkson's talking about. That's one way to do it, to think on your feet. The other is you have to just listen very carefully to what's being said. Most of the time when people struggle with thinking on your feet, and thank you for the heart emojis, a lot of my clients I work with in a one-on-one setting that are women leadership, they'll ask me, well, how do I think on my feet? Like, what do I do? How do I do this? A lot of times you have to observe and listen to what's being asked. If someone says, I want to ask you a question about what happened, what's going on in the economy and this year or last year or something like that, and you don't know, then buy yourself time. Ask that person back, can you clarify specifically what you mean? Do you mean this or do you mean that? While they're clarifying what they were trying to say, it buys you time to think in terms of what you want to say. I tell my clients this, and I say this a lot on my channel, there's aspects of conversations or discussions that may come up. If you are not clear about it and you really need just a few seconds to think it through, buy yourself time. Ask a clarifying question. Do you mean this or do you mean that? And while that person is talking, that means you're thinking about, how do I want to respond? Those are a couple strategies to think on your feet. You have to listen. You have to listen. You have to listen. And then whatever the overall topic is or the subject area, make sure you do a bit of reading on that, or if you have a book or something that you're studying, just do a little bit of research just so that you can have just one or two talking points that you can share in the discussion, and that will help you to start thinking quickly on your feet. Now, it's a lot of it's practice, and of course, I work with my clients specifically in a one-on-one setting to help them do that in a group setting. So if you need some additional support in your woman leadership, you're welcome to reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org for an executive strategy session. But nonetheless, you're going to learn a lot of information here on this channel specifically. Now, to go to your next question about being strong mentally. Well, I would say, and I'll just highlight that, And there's a lot I could talk about, but I know I don't want to necessarily talk to you all for forever on the live about me specifically, because I'm really here to help you all. But I would say for me, for because I haven't seen you, I don't know if I've seen you on the channel. I feel like I may have seen your name before, but so I've been in senior level leadership and executive roles for over the past 20 years of my life. I've practiced as a dentist, but my clinical practice seeing patients has been a bit more unique than the average dentist. I've worked as a C-suite executive. If you don't know what a C-suite executive is, this is your highest level of leadership here in the United States. These are the people that are making the decisions, that are managing departments, that are having to do different building organizations, building departments, and making those really big decisions on behalf of large organizations. So I've done that. I've been in some really great and friendly conversations. I've been in some very contentious conversations. And a lot of times people struggle with how to communicate under pressure, which is my expertise. I spent a lot of time becoming a public speaker. I've been a public speaker for over 20 years. I became a Toastmaster. If you're not familiar with Toastmasters, it's a world-renowned public speaking and leadership organization. And they have this award called their Distinguished Toastmaster Award, where they have about 1% of their 358,000 members worldwide that accomplish it. So I accomplished my Distinguished Toastmaster in 2019, and that just means I've done a lot of speeches, over 50 plus, and I've done just a lot of leadership with Toastmasters. So I've done that. I've been in senior executive roles. I've been the decision maker, building organizations, building buildings, and generating millions of dollars in revenue, securing grants. I've been on the news previously, and I've been on the cover of a magazine. And so when you think about being strong mentally, it's not only when you are being in very great situations where things are going well, your mental strongness, believe it or not, and I know this is something I have to say to myself, is when you're going through hard times, when you're going through challenges. Now, I've been through some really wonderful situations. I've interacted with congressional leaders here at the highest levels of our government here in the United States and here locally in Florida. But I've been in rooms where people have had to communicate at a higher level. And I've heard conversations that have been great, and I've had to have conversations that have been really hard. And that's where you build that mental toughness, is by the conversations and the exposure you have and how you communicate, which is what my expertise is in. And that's how I built my personality. I've been the person that has been the leader that's been in the fire, in the trenches. And sometimes on YouTube, when you listen to a lot of people that may say that they're coaches and etc., they may be coaches or they may have done very well in their roles, but I actually took it a step further and became a certified coach. And so that's why I have made that transition in my career. That's why I'm here to support you all, because I know specifically that leaders, women in leadership, do struggle with different types of roles sometimes just because we're new to them. And then men in leadership, they struggle too, but my emphasis is working with women. But this is why I'm here. This is just who I am. I have a lot of amazing people on my channel, just like Robert you saw earlier. Akit is here as well. I have just so many wonderful people that are women and men that make up this amazing group of leaders we have. And that's why I'm here. So it's not necessarily of a tragedy. I've been through tragedies. I've had tragedy last year. At some point I'll be able to talk about it. But I just feel like a lot of it is how you make your life, and how you believe and who you believe in. I believe in God, and I believe that things happen for us, even though sometimes it might be kind of hard. So that's how I became who I am, in a really, really, really fast response for you. If you have any other questions, let me know. Akesia says, sometimes, doctor, a manager wants to replace you, not because you're not able to do the job, but he may want to add his siblings. So even if you were ideal for the position, other factors are stronger than you. Akesia, good point. And this is the reason why when you talk to that person, ask if they can clarify, and just stay silent and just listen and observe what they do and what they say. I'm telling you, Akesia, they will tell you a lot more than what they are willing to say. So you have to really just pay attention to what's being said when you mention that. Akesia says, you may speak up as a leader, but there are factors out of your control. Yes, there are. And so the way you find out if there's factors out of your control is just ask the question, just want to get clarification, and say nothing. And just observe those cues we talk about, Akesia. Look at their eyebrows. Are their eyes going up like they're surprised? Are they looking like they're perplexed? Are they starting to fidget in their chair a little bit? Are they uncomfortable? Because most of the time when you're having that dialogue with someone and they've made that downgrade to you specifically, there may be an aspect of that decision that they made, if there are those external factors like we talked about, that you just mentioned, that may make them feel uncomfortable. It's a decision they didn't really want to do. You just have to be laser focused, Akesia, on their nonverbal cues, meaning what are they doing? What's their facial expression telling you? What are they verbally telling you? And what's their body language telling you too? It will tell you a lot, Akesia, and then we'll get to figuring out. This is how you read people. You have to pay very close attention to what they say and what they don't say. And I know we talk about this a lot on the channel, so let me know how that works out. Darkson says, what if someone dominates you in a conversation? How to overcome that? Okay, Darkson, so I have videos about this too. Videos that talk about interrupting someone, or someone interrupts you when you speak. This is what you do. So take a look at my live tab. Definitely take some time on my live tab. I think you'll learn a lot of great insights too. But to answer your question, just very briefly, my videos go into a little bit more detail on that. If someone's talking over you or dominating you in a conversation, there's a lot, Darkson, there's a lot that goes into that. And I'll just go really quick for you. Typically, when you have someone that feels like they can dominate you in the conversation, there could be, maybe not, there could be a scenario when they maybe overspoke to you in a previous conversation and maybe you didn't respond and they felt like it's okay. Now, the good part about this is that you can change all of this. You can change the dynamics in a conversation quickly if you listen to what I have to say. The next time that comes up, and let's say maybe you had a situation where the person felt like they could just talk over you and you didn't respond back. Well, let's talk about how you respond back. If someone does that, you're talking, Darkson, and they say, no, they start talking over you a lot more, then you can say, excuse me, I need to finish my point, or excuse me, let me finish what I'm saying, pardon me, I wasn't finished, or something like that. Now, you can say that or say something to break it, to say, wait a second, person that's talking over me, you need to stop that. The other most important part of that is what you're doing with your eyes. Your eyes have to look directly at them. And you definitely want to look at my eye contact videos that look for the cowboy analogy. But your eye contact has to be pretty direct with that person. Because most of the time, people, as I mentioned, they're not comfortable with eye contact. Therefore, and thank you for the heart emojis, if you end up having eye contact with this person and they're trying to talk over you and you say something and you give them eye contact, they're going to sit back and say, okay, let me let you finish. Now, if they try to come back and go back and forth with you on that, that's when you have to be a bit more direct in terms of what you're saying. Your tone of voice is going to be really critical here too, Darkson. It has to be an affirmative tone of voice. You have to bring some depth in to say, excuse me. So the room hears in a group discussion, oh, Darkson was talking, rude person talks over Darkson, and Darkson said, wait a second. And then the room is going to look at Darkson and say, oh, wow, Darkson, you really stood up for yourself. How did you learn how to do that? And then you tell them to come to Excite Excellence on YouTube and tell them that's what you did. You learned. But that's what I would do. And as I mentioned, there's a lot more that goes into it, but I want to at least give you something to work with. Eye contact. Make sure you interject and say, excuse me, pardon me, I'm speaking, whatever you want to say. And then use some depth to your voice. It has to be a little bit different than your baseline. I talk a lot about that on my channel. If you normally speak in one tone of voice, you can either elevate it or lower it, not to where you're yelling, but you can modify it slightly so this person knows that what you are saying is a bit different than how you normally speak, and it will automatically get their attention. Thank you for the heart emojis and the celebration caps. Okay, Darkson says, and one thing you seem to firm a personality from above, but a sweet person from within. You are like a motherly figure. Oh, well, thank you, Darkson. I appreciate that. Well, I've been in situations where, yes, I am very kind. I genuinely am. And I'll tell you honestly, there's a lot of people that you see as content creators on YouTube, Instagram, and etc. that are, they act one way online, but when you talk to them privately or communicate with them, they're totally different. And sometimes it's not different in a good way either. So that is out there. But yes, this is how I am, literally. If you talk to colleagues and people I've interacted with, this is just how I am. But yes, I am very firm because I've been in situations where I've had to be, and that's why we have those more challenging conversations. I tell my audience, Darkson, come to me with the hard things. Like these questions you're asking me right now that are very challenging. What do you do when someone talks over you? How can you speak up for yourself in a group? How can you be selected? All of those type of situations are literally my favorite things to talk about because I've been through every single one of them, or quite a bit of them, to at least give you something to think about. So if you have any topics or situations that come up when you're watching some of my live videos and you're just thinking, you know what, I had this situation when something like this happened, feel free to either type it on your phone or text me or send a message on the comment section and just say, I experienced this, or can you answer a question about this? Depending on what your question is, if it requires just a really short response, I will respond to you. If it requires a bit more depth, I will do a video just for you and give you a shout out on it. Just let me know. I'm here really to help you. I know how it is when you're starting out or when you're very advanced and you're dealing with hard situations, those very high stakes, high pressure situations, and you're just trying to figure out, well, how do I navigate this? What am I supposed to do? How can I do this as a woman in leadership? How can I do this as a man in leadership? Like, how can I figure out communication and those very high stakes, high pressure communication? That is my expertise. And that's what is missing a lot on YouTube, because a lot of people will tell you how to talk, say this, do that. But what happens when this conversation goes under pressure? What happens when somebody's trying to dominate you in a conversation? Something like that. Akesia says, question, in to what degree beauty impact your audience during a speech? Socrates, the Greek philosopher, stated that beauty is a reference letter. And that's a really, Akesia, that's a really good point. And I appreciate you mentioning that. When you are speaking to a group of people, your presence is important, especially if you're developing your executive presence. And I would say the degree of beauty, it really has a lot to do with how you carry yourself. I would say you may have someone that people that can look different or be shaped differently. If they carry themselves in a way where you know that this person knows what they're talking about, they mean business, they're trying to get things done, that will surpass beauty quite a bit. Now, one thing to factor into that is how you dress. Now, if you are dressing in a more lax type of way, then of course that may downgrade your beauty a little bit. I'm just saying, especially if you're focusing in more on your higher level executive type roles that I kind of focus on my channel. But if you're in a more laid back setting, then you can dress laid back. But your appearance, I would say your dress can make a lot up for beauty, because you just have to stand out. As long as if you're a lady, you look appropriate, you have your nice outfit on. If you're a gentleman, maybe your hair's neat, whatever it is you want to do, specifically you're dressed nice. A lot of that factors into your overall look. So you could be somebody that may feel like, oh, I don't look nice. I'm sure there's some aspect, some attribute about you, and I tell my clients this too, that is beautiful. I genuinely believe that about everybody. And if there's something that you're struggling with, just work on it. Be honest and say, I know I need to work on this. I need to work on that. That's fine. Every day we try to become the best versions of ourselves. So let's just work on it. Whatever it is, if you need to work on your dress attire, then find some really sharp outfits. There is a influencer on LinkedIn I just communicated with recently. Her name is Danielle Tremblay, and she specifically works with people to help them have tailored outfits made in tailored shirts, dresses, suits, all of that. that's an option or you can do. Having your clothes fit you properly is important. If you're not at the point where you can actually get a tailor just yet, that's fine. Just as long as you have an outfit that is fitting to your body type, it looks really nice on you. I truly believe that is a great way to capture the audience's attention, because this is something that you do. You have to get the audience's attention. And a lot of times the audience is visual. If you're talking to a group, they're going to see what you have on specifically and see how you're dressed. Do you look like you know what you're talking about? Do you act like you know what you're talking about? And all that. So I hope that gives you some insight. But that's a really good point, and I actually really appreciate you bringing that up, Aketia, because that's something that we don't talk about a lot. A lot of people think, oh, you have to be beautiful and etc. Well, you dress the way you want to dress, but just there's some things that are just universal, and I'm sorry to say it. If you're speaking to a group of people as a speaker, yes, you need to look like you have yourself together. I mean, you have to look like you know what you're talking about. You don't want to look like you just rolled out of the bed. Who wants to do that? Now, there's some people that can do that, and they're probably billionaires, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'd say for the most part, you want to at least be presentable. At least be presentable. That doesn't mean you have to be in a suit and a tie. It doesn't mean you have to be in a blazer and a dress. It just means you just need to look presentable. Don't wear something that is going to make you think, I probably shouldn't have wore that. Just look nice. Darkson says, how can I contact you? By the way, I'm in college. Awesome. And Darkson, I thought that you were. I've been in college forever. So I could tell when you're talking about group discussions and etc. I was like, this person's probably in college. But you're welcome to contact me on specifically Instagram. I have an account at Excite Excellence. I'm also on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Dr. Jacinta Lamantai, and at Excite Excellence on LinkedIn. And then of course there's here YouTube, and you're always welcome to email me at info@exciteexcellence.org. All of that is in the description of this live. So you'll take when I close the live, it'll upload to YouTube. It'll have all that information there. YouTube has not gotten things figured out yet to where you can put your comment in the chat just yet. So contact me on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way, or on LinkedIn, and we can definitely have a conversation. Akesia says, most worldwide CEOs, very beautiful. Absolutely. When you are at that level, when you're a C-suite CEO or CDO like I was, you are at a point where you just have to present yourself in a way to where you look like you have your stuff together. Darkson says, I don't use Insta as I think of it more as a distraction. Do you use LinkedIn? If you use LinkedIn, you're welcome to contact me there. If not, just send me an email at info@exciteexcellence.org. My business website is Excite Excellence Incorporated, and you're welcome to contact me there. Any way you want to contact me, that's fine. Feel free to reach out to me. Frankie, welcome back, friend. How you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Frankie says, a fireside chat about women's empowerment in corporate America. Well, hello. Good to see you, Frankie. Welcome back. Aketia says, agree, doctor. Thumbs up. Scott Fancy. Welcome, Scott. I don't think I've seen you here before. I'm a guy, but woman CEA. I'm not quite sure, but good to see you. Darkson says, do you live stream daily in timing? Sure. So yes, I do live stream a lot. I live stream so much, Darkson, that I'm on YouTube's live stream of research panel until May of this year. I've been on it for a year now. I typically go live on Tuesdays in the morning and in the evening in the US, Thursdays in the morning and in the evening US, and then Fridays in the morning and in the evening US. I do go live on Wednesdays like today. I typically go live Wednesday evening around about this time period where we're live now. It's usually a little earlier because we've been live for about 83 minutes. But that's when I go live. So I'm here often. If you subscribe to the channel and you click the notification icon, it should let you know when I go live, because that's when Aketia joins and Robert joins and a lot of other my audience members join because I'm live. So the key is just subscribing to the channel and getting notifications. But that's typically my live schedule for the most part. I am live quite a bit. And on Friday nights, I have a bit more time because I don't have to get kids ready the following morning for school. So typically on Friday nights, the lives, we just ask a lot of questions. It's spring break now, so I have a little bit more time. But I'm here really to help you any way that I can. I know, especially in college, you're just learning and developing. And I wish I had someone in college that helped me to sharpen how I communicate as a leader. I would have probably done a few more things in my life, but I'm here to support you any way that I can. Akesia says, beauty, the genetic, I meant, as you said, proper clothes and values. Proper clothes add value. Yes, it does. It truly, truly does. And for people that say that it doesn't, that's their opinion, and that's fine. But I genuinely do believe that, especially if you're trying to communicate and you're watching this video, you're trying to communicate at a higher level, your clothes do matter. Do they have to be the most expensive clothes? No, they don't, but they just need to look nice. I think that they just need to look nice so that you are presenting yourself as the person that you know you're meant to be. So we've talked about a lot of wonderful information here today, and I really appreciate everyone for joining and having some really great dialogue today. We talked about several situations where you need to speak up, and then we've talked about different scenarios with coworkers from Robert and Akesia. We've talked about some really great challenging situations that can come up sometimes with Darkson. So I appreciate you all being here and giving some really great insights, because many of the audience members that we have are not able to join live, and therefore they watch the replay of the videos. So it helps them to learn about what's going on. And if you have any colleagues or friends of yours that are trying to elevate how they communicate, feel free to share my channel with them. Even though in terms of my executive coaching and consultation services, I work with women in leadership, but the information I share with you is universal, regardless of if you are a woman in leadership, a man in leadership. What we talk about on this channel is going to help you regardless. It's very universal. There's certain aspects or certain things that all of us deal with specifically, but I'm here really to help as many people as I can, and I'm trying to change generations in the world so we can all learn how to communicate in those challenging situations. Darkson says, I don't think anyone will win against you in the debate. Well, I will. I definitely, that's something I'm working on for sure. And I do pretty well, I would say. I just keep on top of things, and you have to just read people's body language and buy yourself time when you need to, and just practice, practice, practice. The next time that person, Darkson, speaks and tries to communicate over you, you just make sure you watch a couple videos, and you're always welcome to ask me questions. But the moments when you ask that question about building yourself to be strong mentally, Darkson, I'm telling you, it takes just that one time. It takes that one time for someone to say something to you and try to speak over you, and for you to give them a check, as they say, for you to say, you know what, I can do this. And then you'll start building upon that, building upon that, building upon that as you continue to grow. You just got to take that leap, take that step to speak up for yourself when that happens. Akesia says, Doctor, thank you very much. You are our leader. Absolutely. I'm glad we're all leaders here together, Akesia. Doctor says, where professionalism and science meets beauty. Well, thank you, Akesia. I appreciate that, friend. And I'm so glad you're here. Darkson says, drink some water. I think you have been talking too long. The world needs more of your voice. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Believe it or not, I've had lives where we've went for over 2.5 hours. So this is nothing compared to those lives. I'm here to support you all, and it doesn't bother me at all. I'm here to really help you any way that I can on your journey. So I appreciate you all so much. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, definitely subscribe to the channel. We talk about these topics all the time here, and this is the place for you to really learn how to communicate confidently and concisely under pressure. I'm here to really support you any way that I can. And just let me know if you're watching videos, if something comes up for you, just put it in the comments or contact me on any of the social media outlets that I mentioned or platforms, or via email, or on my website at exciteexcellence.org. Just contact me. Let's have a chat, and let's figure out how we can help you communicate. There's only but so much I can do verbally here in a group setting on YouTube to the world. If you're trying to make some drastic movement, that's where working together one-on-one helps you. Awesome. Awesome, always. And I was going to say, awesome. Aketia says, pleasant day, doctor. Thank you. Absolutely. You're very welcome. I appreciate you all so much. And I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.